What's up, guys? So today I am going to kick off a new series that I'm going to start. It's going to be about racing and everything. So I got a big background with racing, and I just wanted to go ahead and start a series because I noticed that it's not getting enough exposure right now, and I just wanted to get some information and everything out there to people. So this is going to be a new series. I'm going to be starting it up hopefully on Wednesdays, maybe Thursdays too. It's going to be one of the 2 days. But if you didn't know, I got a big background in racing. I used to go all up and down the East Coast and everything and race when I was younger. I didn't miss a race for like 8 years in NASCAR, so I'm a huge NASCAR fan. And right now I don't have my boom mic, my mic stand, so it sort of looks a little weird, but we're going to roll with it because I got no other way of going around it. I went to Walmart 3 times this morning, but screw it. We're going to get going. But if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe, and we're going to be going ahead and bringing some content to you, like I said, every Wednesday and Thursday. Make sure you turn notifications on, because if you don't, it's not going to notify you when I post, if I post anything, what I'm doing, if I'm going to be uploading the next day, if I'm going to be doing a poll. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and the notification button. Anyways, let's get to it. We're going to get rolling. So first, I want to congratulate Denny Hamlin on his win last week at Daytona. That was a huge win, and that was awesome. That was really cool to see, actually. It was really special, just really because of the fact of the whole J.D. Gibbs situation. And, J.D. Gibbs passing away and everything, and him picking Denny, I mean, that was huge. And I could tell a huge difference in Denny's morale right after the victory. He didn't seem like his normal self. He was definitely really humble. I don't know if it had to do with him not winning last year or if it had to do with the whole J.D. Gibbs situation. But congrats to Denny. That was a great win, and he really deserved that. So hats off. I know how it feels to not win for a while, so him to get back into victory lane, that's really big. That's a really big deal for him. But I wanted to just touch on one thing from last week. So last week, when I was watching the race live, I'm going to get into Atlanta in a second, but last week when I was watching the race live, I saw Michael McDowell when he was lined up on the restart with Joey Logano in front of him. Of course, everybody noticed there was a ton of Fords up there, and there was 2 Toyotas. There's Kyle and Denny, their teammates, of course. So you see Joey up there. He was an ex-teammate of them, and you're thinking to yourself in your head, okay, I know Joey he's got some beef with these Gibbs drivers because he used to race for Gibbs. So he definitely wants to beat him. Now, Michael McDowell, on the other hand, he's for not a top-tier team, but obviously it's at Daytona, so he can compete at Daytona. So Michael McDowell wants to win. He's hungry. This is his one shot to get in the chase, actually. His best chance to win is if he wins this race. I mean, there's only so many tracks that they're going to be able to compete at, more than likely. Obviously, we got the rules change and everything, so we don't know how that's going to play out. But Daytona, that's a huge chance for them, and he really needs that win. So as soon as they did the restart, I'm looking at the restart, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Michael McDowell's going to have to push Joey because these Gibbs cars, first of all, they're great drivers. Danny and Kyle are fantastic drivers, and it's going to be tough to beat them if you don't team up and try and pass them. They got great cars. They're great drivers. It's a tough matchup. So you see Michael McDowell out there on Joey's bumper. The second they do the restart, I'm thinking to myself, how in the world are they going to beat him? Michael McDowell was laying back so much. As soon as he did the restart, they got to the backstretch. Denny was up by about 2 car lengths, and I said to myself, there's no way. Denny just ran away with the win. I don't care if it's a lap and a half to go. I don't care that they're at Daytona. The super speedways now, it's not breakaway like it used to be. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago. Take, for example, the year that Brad Keselowski got his first win at Talladega. You could tandem draft, and you could just pull away from the pack with 2 people. And it was a lot of breakaway. You definitely needed the draft, of course, because it's a super speedway, and when your speed's that high, you need the draft. But you could actually break away from people and get a huge run on these people. But it wasn't like that. And the whole race, I'm watching it, and I thought to myself, the only way that they're going to beat Denny is if they beat him on the restart. So Michael McDowell is hanging back. And I knew right off the bat they weren't going to get the win. But I know Joey said something after the race. They're not going to win without Michael McDowell pushing them, and I get it. It's a racing situation. Joey wants to win. Joey knows that's his only way he's going to beat Denny. But at the same time, you got to look at it from Michael McDowell's perspective. The guy needs to win. He needs it more than Joey. So Michael McDowell, I got to give you credit. You're doing what you can to win the race. Maybe if he hangs back and he gets a push from someone else, maybe he can pass them both. Yeah, I think that's what he was going for. But you never know how it's going to play out. So, but congrats to Danny. You know, I understand why Joey was upset, but at the same time, Michael McDowell, you got to go for a win too. So, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But anyways, let's get on to Atlanta. And first, I want to start talking about this rules package. So, I don't know what to think about it. The racing, of course, was great. What we saw at Charlotte last year was fantastic. But as far as the racing goes, you know, I know the big reason they're doing it is they're trying to get racing more friendly, and they're trying to get more people to watch a sport, because right now I know it's tough to get people to watch it. But the racing has been so, these big teams, it's sort of like the Golden State Warriors or the NBA. These big teams are just taking over, and every week they just see the same drivers over and over and over winning the races. But I don't know personally how this rules change is going to affect that. I guess we just have to wait and see what happens. But in my opinion, what I think is going to happen is the teams that win because they have the better equipment, they have the better drivers, and I'm not just talking about like cars and everything. I'm talking about the technology they have, everything they use to help their cars get better, what they use to get their information. You got to have sponsors. So the teams without the sponsors, the team without the money, it's going to be hard to compete no matter what. Because they have, you got these 4-car teams going up against these 1-car teams, and the equipment and everything they test with, they got a lot more stuff. So they already got a heads up. So what I'm afraid of is racing should not be made to make the field, I guess the way to put it, more competitive. Of course, you want it to be competitive. What I'm trying to say is you don't want to turn it into just super speedway racing, because what you're going to see is there is these cars in the super speedways that are going to get up there and they're going to compete. But what's going to happen is these super speedways, you're not focused on these cars in the back. You're not focused on the cars running 30th, the cars running 25th, because the racing doesn't really matter because it's so close. You're thinking in the back of your head, you're like, these guys can get up there any second. They can compete for the win. So we're going to focus on the top 5 drivers. So what I'm scared is going to happen is with this new rules change, so the super speed or the speedways, for example, like Atlanta, we're racing at this weekend, they have bigger splitters, more downforce, bigger spoilers, more downforce, and less horsepower. So the cars are going to handle a lot better, and they're not going to have a higher speed. So the engines are obviously they're going to factor in, of course, with the downforce and everything. However your engine's set up, it's going to factor in how it's going to affect the drag and everything of the car, the downforce. So what I'm worried about is the cars in the front are all they're going to be focused on. And the cars in the front are going to be the same cars that they're used to. So take, for example, say you still have to brake in the corners and everything. The cars are still going to be dependent on handling. And now, since it's going to be pack racing, you're going to be more focused on those front 5 cars rather than what's going on in the back. So if you're looking at Atlanta, and say there's a car that dominates every week. Let's take Kevin Harvick, for example. Kevin Harvick won a ton of races last year, and he went on this big streak. So let's take this, for example. So Kevin Harvick, he might be dominating these races, right? But you have other racing going on in the field. You still can look back at 20th place. You can still look back and say, oh, this team that normally runs 35th is running in 15th right now. Hats off to them. They're doing great. Look at this great racing going on in the back. They're 3 wide back here, battling for 10th. Meanwhile, Kevin Harvick's checked out in first. You know, he deserves it. He deserves the win. But not only that, you still have this racing going on in the back. So what that's going to help with, it's going to help get the names out there for these smaller teams and the smaller drivers. So if you just focus on pack racing, if it's the same cars week in and week out at the front of the field, what's going to happen is they're the only team's going to get exposure. They're the only team's going to get sponsorship, and then it's going to wipe out these smaller teams, unfortunately, because the sponsors are basing it off TV time. So if these teams still aren't competing for wins and everything, it's going to make it harder, because the TV now with pack racing isn't going to focus on the back of the field. They're only going to focus on the front. So I really hope this works out. You know, NASCAR, I've been a big fan for years, and I really hope this works out. I think they've been changing a lot. If anyone's been to a race lately, you can see when you're there, the experience is a lot different. It's a lot better. They're a lot more interactive with the fans at the races now, and it's a lot more enjoyable experience leading up to the race than it was before. But that's what I'm worried about, is they're going to be more focused on those front 5 cars, and it's going to be the same cars week in and week out. But I really hope that's not the case. So let's wait and see. Of course, we got a bunch of other tracks to see, but that's the big changes. We got a bigger spoiler, we got bigger splitter, and we got less horsepower. So, yeah, it's going to be really cool to wait and see what happens. But on to the next thing. I am a huge Casey Kane fan, as you see right here. So my driver retired. So this year in NASCAR, I am a lot less stressed out because my driver, I'm not sitting there worrying about him being in 25th and everything, of course. So now they got Matt DiBenedetto. There's a ton of new drivers this year. It's great for the sport. They got a bunch of big names. They got Chase Elliott. They got Ryan Blaney. These up and coming drivers are people that they've heard of because of their family. They're passing the sport. So it's good for NASCAR. So let's go ahead and get to our picks of the week. And I am not going to be biased one bit. Like I said, my driver retired. That makes it a lot easier for me to watch NASCAR. So speaking of last week, Jimmy Johnson, the Hendrick cars, they all looked great. They looked really good. They've been lacking the past couple years. They weren't as dominant as they had been. But last week, they looked really good at Daytona. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, it's Daytona. It doesn't matter. It matters. It matters. When your cars are that strong, it's saying something. It's saying that your team is actually good. You got some horsepower under the hood. You got things going for you. I know Chad Knaus left Jimmy. He went to another team. Maybe they can figure a couple new things out. Maybe this driver likes some things Jimmy doesn't like. Maybe they can apply that to the other cars. So, Chad isn't with Jimmy anymore, but that doesn't mean he's not going to help him. He's still on the same team. They're on the same roster. They both work for Hendrick, and Hendrick is a great team-friendly organization. So I think this week and this year, really, I think Jimmy's going to be a guy to watch. I think people are going to keep him under the radar. They think he's getting up there in age. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You see guys like Mark Martin. You see guys like Morgan Shepherd racing. I mean, my gosh, Morgan Shepherd. Yeah, that guy's been racing for a while now. That's all I'm going to say. But, yeah, these guys just don't slack off, and especially a guy like Jimmy. Jimmy's not going to slack off. He's one of the smartest drivers. If you look up the guy, he is very knowledgeable about the cars. Chad taught him a lot, and Chad's going to do the same with all the other drivers at Hendrick, I'm sure. William Byron, and he's going to be great for that team. So Jimmy, though, is going to be a big name to watch this year. So, like I said, big run at Daytona last week, and this week coming up at Atlanta. Jimmy has always been good at Atlanta, maybe not in the past year or so, but before that, he always was. And I promise you, Jimmy has not slacked off as a driver. Jimmy is just as good as he's ever been, just as smart as he's ever been, and that's one of the key reasons Jimmy wins. He doesn't make bad decisions. But he's really going to be a guy to watch this week. Just keep an eye out for the Hendrick cars. I think they're really going to turn things around this year. But Jimmy's going to be a guy to look out for. But another guy, of course, I think to look out for is going to be Kevin Harvick. The guy won last week. Last year. He's always a threat at Atlanta. The guy dominates tracks like this, Phoenix, Atlanta, those are the two big Kevin Harvick tracks, and this is going to be the week to watch him, of course. Everybody knows that. Anytime you got Kevin Harvick in Atlanta, he's a threat. And my sleeper pick is going to be Matt DiBenedetto. Like I said, Matt DiBenedetto is on a team that Casey Kane was on last year, and as you saw with guys like Kurt Busch going to Furniture Row Racing, it really turns those teams around. You get a veteran driver there, they bring sponsorship, it brings money to the team, it lets them invest more, it turns things around. So Casey went to Levine Racing last year, and now Matt DiBenedetto's taken over. They still have sponsorship. Same sponsor that they had last year, Procore, and the team's got some money now. They've got some sponsorship. They've got the ball rolling. They learned a few things, I'm sure, from Casey. Casey helped them out. So you saw Casey went to Levine Family Racing last year. He brought them money. He brought them sponsors, and now this team is going to be transitioning sort of like Furniture Row did. They had Kurt Busch, and they had Martin Truex, and you saw the team transitioning, and I hope they don't fall apart and lose sponsorship just like Levine eventually. Just like Furniture Row eventually did. So I hope the rules package helps out with that. But that was a fun thing to watch. You saw a one-car team doing a good job, but I think Levine's going to do a similar job with Matt DiBenedetto. Now I think this team isn't going to necessarily compete for wins every week, but I think they're definitely going to be probably a top 15 team. I think you could safely say they're probably going to be competing for top 15 finishes week in and week out. I don't think they're going to be dominating. I don't think they're going to be like a Joe Gibbs type, but they do have the partnership with Joe Gibbs now. Huge benefit. So that's going to be a team. Look out for them. Make sure you do. Keep an eye out. But But now that I mentioned a Toyota and a Chevy, I did mention Kevin Harvick, but let's go ahead and throw in another Ford pick. Ryan Blaney, I think you got to keep an eye out for that guy. He's in Penske equipment, and the guy did good. He finished second at Texas last year, and he won a race. He started coming on strong at the end of last year, so I think he's definitely going to be a guy to watch out for. He looked good at Daytona, of course. Good equipment. He's going to get good finishes. I know the guy's a good driver, so he's learned a lot. He's got a lot of people to learn from. So make sure to keep an eye out for him. But that's going to do it. And who's your picks for this week? Who do you think's going to win? What do you think of the rules package? Make sure to drop something in the comments section, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and turn the notifications on, so that way you know every time I post, every time I put a poll out, and you get more involved and see. Let's see what you think. Let's see what you hear. Let's make a community. Let's make a NASCAR community. That's what they're lacking right now. I want to get more people involved in the sport, so let's go ahead and get more people involved in the sport. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. I can't wait to see what Atlanta brings, and I can't wait to see how this racing goes. Make sure to check out the channel if you like cars. I've got a couple things on there you might be interested in, but we're going to be doing this every Wednesday, maybe Thursday, so just keep an eye out for that. The channel motto is greatness takes vision, so whatever you want in life, visualize it, make it happen, make it yours. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you guys next week. Make sure to drop a comment on what your thoughts are for this week at Atlanta. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Have a good one. Bye.